And we're live.
Cool. Going on mute for now and cameras off. Good morning, everybody. Just a quick reminder, we'll start about a minute after the hour. Give everybody a chance to get on, but if you do have questions, you can either unmute and ask or feel free to go into the chat. We'll be looking at the Q&A and the chat both, and do all we can to answer your questions. So thanks for joining, everybody. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Again, thank you all for joining. And once again, if you have questions, click on the Q&A button or feel free to unmute. We don't have a huge group and you can just interrupt and we'll address your question. So either way is fine. Or if you just have an additional point you'd like to share with the rest of the group, that helps too, because we're all getting information from multiple sources. But with that, we'll go ahead and dive in and get started. Um, Not a ton new. I hesitate to say this, but it seems to be slowing down a little bit as far as the rate of change, but we'll keep our eye on it and make sure that we are watching. But um, again, we'll cover the economy first today because I think that's where the biggest news is and where we need to be watching most closely. Going to be talking about the tariffs again. We got some new news there, incentives, refrigerant, and just a final reminder on the CVP. So, but why I do this, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I saw this from last week. Your air conditioner may be banned soon. Exactly what you need to know about the killer refrigerant you must ditch now. There's some bad news out there and incorrect information getting to consumers. And I think it's important that we see it, understand it, and know how to react to it. So this article was the Sun isn't necessarily always your highest quality journalism. And if you read this article, you'll see they kind of are loose with the facts. But if consumers are seeing this, obviously there's a whole lot of things we need to be prepared for as distributors and contractors to make sure we re-educate contract or homeowners properly. So let's talk about the economy a little bit. Good news in July, or seemingly good news. The GDP was actually up 3%, but the reason it was up is because a great reduction of imports. People stopped bringing stuff into this country because of the tariffs, and therefore, because GDP is basically what's shipped out of this country plus what's produced in this country, subtracting what is brought into this country. If you stop bringing things in, it makes production look a lot better. So it's a little bit misstated, but it is a positive sign, and that always helps the markets. So good news there. Unemployment stayed pretty steady last month, not a huge change. In Illinois, it's 4.6, but Iowa, Wisconsin, and Missouri are all below that average. Um, so if you're having trouble finding people, that's why the unemployment rate is pretty low. Inflation continues to stay stable, but the core prices, shelter, transportation, medical, are starting to feel some of the tariff pressure, and it actually did rise, but the CPI itself, Consumer Price Index, stayed consistent. Interest rates still are a little bit restrictive to growth, and the Fed seems to be on a pace to look at it in September for a drop, but we haven't seen anything yet. So the interest rates still continue to be non-conducive to real growth. I did include some specific trends from the industry this time. This is what is the sales growth. The black line is the sales growth for distributors. So we're seeing an annual growth rate of 4.3%. But the other line is the price index on HVAC products. So you can see a sharp upturn over the last 2 months or so, getting us up to 4.2% growth rate on our primary products in HVAC. And what's happening there is, again, tariff and the manufacturers reacting to that and being prepared for it. So we don't see that changing, and that's going to slow that growth rate for our industry. And most predictions I see a relatively flat end of the year. So as you play out what you're going to be doing for the rest of this year, know that the demand is likely going to be fairly flat. Obviously, weather can affect that. Obviously, there's several other things that go into it, but just based on the economy and pricing, looks to be relatively flat. This is AC shipments over the last several years. You can see the pandemic bump, but more importantly, you can see the growth rate shrinking again going into this summer. A lot of that is shipments from manufacturers and the dip getting ready for 410A change, and then the spike of a bunch of 410A going out to the market, and then the slowdown because the distributors are getting rid of all that 410A. So nothing unexpected here, other than just watching the downward trend here and seeing if it continues past that hump of 410A getting out. So important to watch it, and I thought it was a good time to share that with everyone here. As far as demand drivers, the orange line is a study that Harvard does, and it's studying remodeling activity in this country. And the downturn on that front is concerning as well. The black line is just that same distributor trend that we showed earlier, distributor sales trend. But the new construction has been slow because of the interest rates. But now that remodeling is slowing as well, we need to watch that carefully because that certainly is a factor that ties closely with HVAC repair, is that remodeling activity. So one to watch. And again, I'll keep my eyes on it and make sure we share any major changes or major issues happening on that front. As far as HVAC contractor strategies, these are some of the things that the internet suggested, and I thought it was good to share. Balance your work mix. Make sure you're looking at both replacement and upgrades with efficiency systems, and be selective. Focus on projects with financing options available, because certainly cash flow will continue to be a problem in a slower economy if you're not getting a good turn on your money. So just reemphasize in that residential market looking for financing options, because the price tag for a piece of equipment gets bigger and bigger. So, Nate, do you have a question?
I did not. I'm sorry.
No worries at all. Just saw your button light up there, so no good. Supply chains, just continue working closely with us to make sure that you know what pricing is and you're passing that through accordingly. Um, Leverage financing trends. Again, watch for offers from us and make sure you're taking advantage of those because there's lots of advantages to consumers to have financing because, again, the price tag's so high that customers can't easily absorb that with their savings. Um, Time to emphasize energy savings and modernization, both with the equipment and the controls. And then finally, keep coming back to this meeting every month and look at the economic signals so you can plan your business accordingly and be ready if the consumers are going to have a major change in what their decisions are going to be. Okay. Tariff landscape, just a quick update on tariffs. Um, if you go across Trump administration, did their April increases, which was 25, increased to 50, and kind of bounced around on what was involved. Copper's one of the ones we have to watch carefully. As of August 1st, 50% tariff on copper imports took effect, which is going to mean more copper production in this country, but there's only so much. So that will continue to push pricing in our world up because copper is still going to be a major factor in our equipment. Imports from Canada and Mexico are getting the 25, nothing changing there. And China is still seeing the 30%. India and Brazil, kind of all over the board. China, we were supposed to get an increase 8.1 to 40%, but there's a 90-day hold on that. So it's going to stay at 30 for the time being, and November 10th is the deadline on that one. So we'll keep an eye on it. But clearly, both parties want to avoid the hyper large tariffs and keep negotiations going. So we'll see if they can come to terms over the next 90 days. Okay. Again, the overall tariffs, this is from the Yale Budget Lab, and I mentioned this last month, but I think it's important to know that the overall tariff pressure on the U.S. consumers about 17.6% of what we pay for. Tariffs are affected by 17.6%. And I bring that up only because it just furthers the need to consider um, financing and options for homeowners because the prices are just going to be high relative to everything else they buy and relative to their income. So we need options to help them through those buying decisions because buying a replacement compressor on an old unit or a replacement heat exchanger is not necessarily a good solution anymore, but that price tag for the full system is tough. So just have options and be ready to explain. Incentives updates. Just a reminder, the tax credits go away 1/1. I think everybody knows that, but it is a good time to continue to take advantage of them while we can. Energy Star was defunded by the big beautiful bill, but the Senate did approve 36 million, but the budget's 62, so there's still a big shortfall, and the White House is really pulling for 32 million. So we'll see where that ends up. But Energy Star still has significant problems. We did learn that President Trump would like the DOE to take over Energy Star, which may or may not be a good idea. There's pros and cons, but DOE has been defunded as well, so their resources aren't great to take it over. CE is at risk of being removed, but with Energy Star having their problems, we don't know where it would go. So again, we'll keep an eye on it, but some uncertainty on that front. The IRA rebates, nothing's changing. I don't expect a lot to change now. There's been more pressure on these programs from the Big Beautiful Bill and other places, but we'll keep watching this graph. And then if the Wisconsin, Missouri, Illinois, um, Iowa markets change at all, we'll let you know and keep you posted on what you can do to take advantage of them. But it's a very slow moving train at this point. So we'll just watch it and I wouldn't worry about it until we tell you more. Um, the R54 rollback to 410A and 32 as well, of course, going back to 410A. The manufacturers continue to say that's a really bad idea. Whether or not the government hears that or not, we don't know. But the key to it is this food marketplace versus the EPA court case. oral arguments are going to be starting next month, so I'm going to keep watching it just to see what happens. But the manufacturers are really pushing against it. And as of the end of July, 75% of all installs were one of the new refrigerants. So for manufacturers, distributors, and contractors to roll back to 410A is highly unlikely. It's going to be a really tough move. So we'll, like I say, we'll continue to watch it, but I don't expect that to happen. So full speed ahead with 454B and R32. Again, the shortage of 454B, most information I'm seeing is still saying sometime this quarter it should even out. We should have more available. We continue to have some available, but it's not coming out of the spigots by any stretch. So we're watching it carefully. But the tanks are more available now. The manufacturer is becoming more prevalent, and every manufacturer is looking at slight changes they can make by overcharging and putting more refrigerant in the product to help. So we expect to get through it. And as we get through the end of summer here, that will take a lot of pressure off. Just want to remind you about the calculator, DS Solution Tap calculator for your
Andy,
refrigerant. Yeah, please.
we had a question. Are the incentives going away for geothermal?
They are, but later. If I recall correctly, they are not going away until 26. But I will add that to my notes and bring it up next time. But I know they're not on the same schedule as the 25C. I think they're 25D, and I think that's got an extension. But I will find out for next time for sure. Absolutely. Great question, and I will follow up on that. Thanks, Isabella. So again, the refrigerant detection systems aren't always necessary in smaller residential applications, and it's good to know. The second reason I think this is a great tool for you is it just sets you above other contractors. When we're asking homeowners to spend 10, 15, $20,000 on a new system, the more professional we can be, the better off we are, and the more likely they are to trust us. So this is a great tool to explain to them how refrigerant detection systems work and why they're necessary. And if you're suggesting it's not needing and the competition is still suggesting it, it's nice to have that documentation. Or in the other format, either way, it's going to give you a good report to hand to a homeowner and give you some more credibility. So highly recommend you take a look at that. The QR codes will get you there. That QR code will be on the PDF we send out as well. So if you aren't able to take it off the screen here, it will certainly be in the PDF, so you can do it then. Restate this all the time. If you've not done a lot of 410A or 454B or R32 yet, certainly some training for your team, getting your tools updated, making sure you understand the RDSs that you're installing, incorporating your checklists, and testing the RDS and making sure ventilation, if necessary, is taken care of. And I still recommend having somebody on staff that's read through 15.2, ASHRAE 15.2, and understands it pretty well. It's where most of the code is coming from, and it's important to have your hands around it. Then finally, know what your local authority with jurisdiction or your inspector is looking at, because everyone interprets it slightly differently. And the way the codes are written, that's very possible. So talking to your inspectors and understanding what they're looking for is as important as anything. All right. Just want to restate the controls verification procedure. This is what the manufacturers were going to be required to do for inverter technology. Where we're rating them today doesn't necessarily match how they're being used. And so the government wanted us to rate them more accurately with how the inverter technology is actually used, which is fine and probably the right thing to do, but that changes everybody's efficiencies by rating it in a new way, which means that most manufacturers would lose 25C and other utility rates, which were all based on the product we're building, and we all built them to those standards. So it'd be a major shift, and it would make for a lot of confusion in the market. And we seem to have plenty of that right now. So the government said, let's wait a year and take a look at it. And so it'll be July 7th of next year that we'll decide whether we're going to go to this new standard or not. And hopefully the manufacturers are a little more prepared for it. Additional resources always, I put the links in here for all of these so you can dive in deep. There's certainly a lot available on York and Luxair.com. Certainly Bosch.com has some nice material available as well. There are both white papers and brochures and videos. So if you want to show some of those to homeowners or send them before your sales call, that's a good way to get people educated and help them getting good information as opposed to some of the stuff I showed you from the Sun earlier, which will help. So with that, a quick one today, but again, not a lot going on. I just wanted to make sure we were keeping you updated on what we did have. We'll do this again on September 10th. But in the meantime, does anybody have any questions or anything I can go into more detail on?
Hey, Andy.
Yes, Steve.
I looked up on the geothermal. It's according to this, the 30% tax credit ends at the end of this year. So
Oh, it does. Okay. My
Yeah.
apologies. I had that wrong. I know there are some that are further out, but I will go across all the technologies next time. That's a good point. I kind of keep it narrowed to that standard heat pump, but we should look at all of those. So thank you, Steve, for looking that up. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll do this again in September. Thanks all.
Thank you,
Thanks, Andy.